The Zelians took immense pride in being the most sophisticated civilization in the observable cosmos. Their translucent, crystalline forms glowed with inner bioluminescence as they drifted gracefully through their immaculate cities, nestled within the upper atmosphere of their native planet. They had unlocked the secrets of quantum physics long before most species had even grasped basic mathematics. Their technology had progressed to such an extent that traveling faster than light was seen as mundane, no more impressive than learning how to fasten shoelaces. Yet despite their unmatched intellect and accomplishments, there was one cosmic decree even the mighty Zelians dared not defy. Do not awaken the humans. It wasn't that humans appeared intimidating, at least not at first sight. They seemed rather ordinary, fragile life forms who had only just scraped the surface of interstellar travel before entering what became known as the Great Hibernation. Legends tell that during their third global conflict, with their planet teetering on the edge of ecological collapse, the human race collectively chose to enter cryosleep. Now, vast human colonies drifted silently through the stars in colossal vessels, preserved in suspended animation by automated systems that operated with haunting precision. No one truly understood the origins of the warning. It had been passed down through eons, translated into countless alien tongues, and upheld by every spacefaring society across the galaxy. The galactic archives echoed the same warning time and again. Let them slumber. Chief Science Officer. Zyth gently swept his crystal appendages across the control interface of his research cruiser, pulling up a holographic projection of the newest human colony vessel they had located. In adherence to protocol, his crew maintained a cautious distance. By Zelian standards, the ship was ancient, practically a relic, but something about it unsettled him. His crystalline structure vibrated with unease. "Fascinating species," he murmured, his voice rippling through his glowing form. "They look so serene in sleep. Hard to believe they're the reason behind our most sacred law." If only he understood just how justified his apprehension was. The scan had been intended as a routine operation. At least, that's what Zyth would later tell the emergency council. His radiant form dulled with remorse. Merely a surface-level analysis of the vessel's exterior. Non-intrusive, harmless. But his junior researcher, Zix, had other plans. Fresh from the Galactic Academy, graduating with top honors and an ego large enough to eclipse a star system, Zix had become obsessed with human physiology since their initial contact with the cryoship. Their scans had uncovered anomalies within the stasis systems, levels of efficiency that defied even their advanced thermodynamic models. "Just a tiny probe," Zix had pleaded, his body shimmering with excitement. "We won't even touch them." Imagine the scientific possibilities. Zeeth should have known better. The instant the probe was activated, everything changed. The human ship, silent and inert for centuries, suddenly roared to life. Alarms echoed through their vessel, red symbols flashing across every interface. "What did you do?" Zeeth's voice cracked with alarm, his usually harmonic tones warping into dissonant static. "Nothing. I might have," Zix stammered. The probe's quantum signature must have somehow harmonized with the cryogenic field. Zix's body had gone pale, almost translucent with terror. On the main view screen, pod after pod began lighting up, one by one, like stars piercing the dusk. Thousands of them. The ship's systems, far from outdated, executed a reactivation sequence so flawless their sensors could hardly keep up. "Send an emergency transmission to High Command," Zyth barked, his core flickering with dread. "Pattern code, ultraviolet. I repeat, ultraviolet. Human awakening underway in Sector 7. The reply came almost instantly. A fleet of Zelian warships surrounded them within moments, forming a containment perimeter around the reawakening vessel. Their crystalline armor shimmered with tension. Then the High Commander appeared on the screen, her elder form deep violet, trembling with fury. "You absolute supernova-brained fools," she thundered, invoking an ancient insult from the early days of space travel. "Do you have any idea what you've unleashed? The humans were to remain dormant for another 1,000 years. "High Commander," Zyth began cautiously, "perhaps we can induce sleep again." He was cut off by another alert. The human ship's engines, long thought to be defunct, began to power up. Systems believed dead sparked to life with frightening efficiency. And worst of all, the scans detected neurological activity. The humans weren't just waking, they were enraged. Too late, the High Commander whispered. They're awake. May the first light protect us. In the chaos that followed, with containment measures initiated and evacuation orders flooding in, Zix turned to Zyth and muttered what would later be considered the understatement of the age. I guess this won't help my performance review. Suddenly, the human ship's communication systems crackled to life. Across all channels, a voice spoke in a tongue not heard for centuries. The message was brief, unmistakable, and soon it would echo throughout the galaxy. Who dares disturb our slumber? The Zellian diplomatic corps had no answer. The Zellian species took great pride in their flawless execution of first contact protocols. They had diffused wars, averted mass extinctions, and even persuaded a hive mind not to transform an entire galaxy into office supplies. However, none of their extensive preparation had equipped them to handle irritable humans, abruptly stirred from their interstellar slumber. Ambassador Crystal, named deliberately to appeal to humans' supposed fondness for literal nomenclature, headed the delegation. Her crystalline form was polished to brilliance, refracting light in elegant displays admired across 16 species' aesthetic standards. Remember, she instructed her team, we must approach this with diplomacy, humility, and above all, remorse. We've disturbed their rest. How bad could it really be? As it turned out, the answer was quite terrible. The human vessel permitted their ship to dock, a gesture the diplomats naively interpreted as goodwill. They were mistaken. The moment the delegation glided through the airlock, they were confronted by humans clad in sleepwear, that gripping, steaming mugs of what their sensors flagged as coffee, a beverage promptly categorized as a potential biochemical hazard. The human leader looked bleary-eyed, with disheveled hair that seemed to defy multiple physical laws. So you're the geniuses who thought waking up millions of humans early was a good idea? Honored humans, Ambassador Crystal began, launching into her meticulously rehearsed address, her form shimmering with manufactured sincerity. On behalf of the Galactic Alliance, we wish to offer our most sincere— Save it, Sparkles, the human interrupted mid-sip. Do you have any idea how long it took to sync our sleep cycles? Ever tried getting millions of people to agree on when to nap? The diplomatic team exchanged uncertain glances, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with unease. This wasn't in the manual. We've prepared generous reparations, another diplomat added hastily, including advanced comfort technologies and devices to enhance dream quality. The human leader snorted, actually snorted, prompting alarmed vibrations among the delegation. Oh, that's adorable. You think tossing us some fancy pillows is going to fix this? Ever been woken up in the middle of a good sleep? It's impossible to go back. From there, the situation rapidly deteriorated. The humans, it turned out, had opinions, loud, persistent, and numerous, on being prematurely awoken, and they were determined to share them all. Matters escalated when a human discovered that a beloved food item, pizza, had gone extinct during their cryosleep. The resulting outburst caused 3 diplomatic aides to fracture and 1 to momentarily lose structural cohesion. This is unprecedented, Ambassador Crystal transmitted privately to High Command. They're not threatening annihilation. They're not even declaring war. They're just endlessly complaining about everything. The humans had initiated what they called a town hall, a gathering to collectively air their grievances. The idea alone sent tremors through the diplomatic corps. Millions of grumpy, recently awoken humans, all ranting at once. We have to intervene, Crystal pleaded with her superiors. They're forming committees, but it was already too late. The humans had discovered their beloved entertainment services were no longer functional. The phrase, Netflix and chill, was being uttered with alarming aggression. Mentions of social media withdrawal caused the diplomatic team's universal translators to overload, struggling to encapsulate the emotional magnitude of that crisis. In a last-ditch effort for peace, Ambassador Crystal offered the humans control of several luxurious resort planets, places where they could unwind until they felt ready to return to hibernation. The human leader's reply would be immortalized in diplomatic history as the shortest and most chilling rejection ever recorded. Bold of you to assume we'll ever be ready to sleep again. Now, about those extinct pizza recipes. The Galactic Alliance was about to learn a harsh truth. An awakened human with a vendetta was already a galactic headache. But a human with a grudge and no access to their favorite comfort foods? That was a universal crisis. And the real chaos began when humans finally checked their messages, or more accurately, the quantum encrypted transmissions that had piled up during their centuries-long snooze. The Zelian High Council could only watch in dread as the collective mood of humanity began to shift. The mood shifted from mild annoyance to something far more troubling: amusement. "Let me get this straight," the human leader declared on their 15th cup of coffee, addressing the emergency session of the Galactic Alliance. "While we were asleep, you all convinced yourselves that we entered cryosleep because we had depleted our resources." The High Commander's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "According to our historical archives," the commander began. "Oh, this is priceless," another human interrupted, wiping tears of laughter from their eyes. The truth, as it turned out, was far more absurd than anything the Galactic Alliance had ever imagined. The humans hadn't gone into cryosleep due to resource scarcity. They had done it out of sheer boredom. "We'd basically solved everything," the human leader explained, scrolling through ancient mission logs with growing delight. "Clean energy, global peace, universal healthcare, faster-than-light travel. We even figured out why kids adore Cinnamon Toast Crunch. There was simply nothing left to accomplish." The Galactic Archives were quickly revealed to be hilariously inaccurate. Those primitive-looking ships were a facade. The seemingly simple cryogenic pods were actually quantum consciousness storage units that made Zelian technology look like two rocks banging together. The humans hadn't been asleep. They had been running universe-scale simulations, processing quantum calculations that could make a supercomputer weep, and binge-watching every possible variation of reality TV ever created. "But the warning," Ambassador Crystal stammered, "the rule about never waking humans." A human scientist grinned, clearly pleased with themselves. "We wrote that and scattered it across the galaxy. Best prank ever." The revelation hit the Galactic Alliance like a supernova. The humans weren't some endangered species in need of protection. They were essentially cosmic teenagers who decided to take a nap and set an elaborate out-of-office message. The true extent of human capabilities began to unfold. While asleep, they had mapped every conceivable timeline in the universe, solved the question of whether hot dogs qualify as sandwiches, though they refused to share this knowledge, claiming some things should remain mysterious. Developed a unified theory of everything, then decided it was boring and created several more interesting alternatives. They created and abandoned 17 different types of social media platforms in their simulated environments, deeming them too emotionally draining. They figured out why socks always disappear in the laundry, but they're keeping that secret. The Zelian scientists examining the human ship's supposedly primitive systems had to be treated for shock when they realized they weren't observing technology. They were witnessing art projects made by human children while their parents caught up on sleep. "But why?" the High Commander asked, their crystalline form practically trembling with confusion. "Why pretend to be a sleeping civilization? Have you ever tried being the most advanced species in the galaxy?" The human leader counted off. "It's exhausting. Everyone always comes to you with their problems, asking for tech, expecting you to solve their existential crises. We just wanted a break." The final blow to the Galactic Alliance's collective ego came when they discovered that humans had reached their advanced state before most other species even invented the wheel. They'd just been watching everyone else evolve, occasionally leaving helpful anonymous tips like, "Have you tried pointing the rocket the other way?" Or, "Maybe don't mix those chemicals." "Think of it like a cosmic gap year," one human explained to the increasingly frazzled council. "Except instead of backpacking across Europe, we took a few centuries off and let everyone else have a turn at running things." The High Commander's concluding report to the Galactic Alliance summarized the situation perfectly. "We have not been guarding a primitive sleeping species. We have unknowingly been part of the universe's longest-running social experiment. And now the experimenters are awake, caffeinated, and eager to catch up on what they call current events. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all." The notorious probe episode was officially reclassified, not as the greatest scientific blunder, but rather as history's most effective wake-up signal. Although, opinions differed on whether that truly marked progress. The shift in the balance of galactic influence happened quicker than a quantum blink. One moment, the Galaxians reigned as the undisputed sovereigns of known space. The next, they were observing humans casually rearrange star systems because, apparently, the feng shui was off. You can't just move an entire solar system, High Commander Christos objected, their crystalline structure flickering in agitation as humans calmly shifted celestial bodies. "Watch us," responded the human leader, lounging in a bathrobe and fuzzy bunny slippers while overseeing the repositioning of star clusters. "This one's blocking the view of that beautiful nebula, and the interplanetary commute time? Ridiculous. Who laid this out?" Attempts to maintain order in a galaxy now populated with fully awake humans quickly proved as effective as herding quantum particles, theoretically feasible, but practically hopeless. Humans began solving problems no one had even noticed. They introduced the concept of weekends to civilizations that had never taken a break. They rolled out cross-dimensional Wi-Fi that somehow worked across realities. They launched a galaxy-wide food delivery service with a guaranteed 30-minute delivery window, or your credits back. The once flawless Zellian bureaucracy descended into delightful chaos after humans introduced them to casual Fridays and office parties. The image of crystalline beings attempting to don Hawaiian shirts would haunt High Commander Christos's sleep cycles for generations. But perhaps the most startling shift came from the younger species. Instead of rejecting human influence, they embraced it with overwhelming enthusiasm. Young Zeons started forming cultural fusion clubs with human teens, eventually sparking the galaxy's first interspecies meme war. "You've got to admit," Zix whispered to Zyth as they watched a human teach a group of young Xylans how to chill, "they do make things more lively." Zith, whose diplomatic career somehow survived the wake-up debacle, merely nodded, too stunned to speak. The humans had promoted him to chief officer of making sure humans don't get bored again. Whether that title was an honor or a punishment remained unclear. Human governance baffled everyone. They established what they cheerfully called a universal community center, a colossal space station where species could mingle, relax, and vibe. Major diplomatic negotiations now happened over board games and shared meals. But what of proper diplomatic procedure? Ambassador Crystal gasped in horror as a centuries-old territorial feud was settled via an interstellar karaoke contest. "Protocols," said the human moderator with a grin, "are just suggestions wearing fancy hats." Then he queued up the next performance, Universal Wind by Darrow Sandstorm, apparently a favorite from their hibernation playlist. Even the dreaded void crawlers, feared for eons, turned out to be rather friendly once humans introduced them to hot cocoa and bubble wrap. "We weren't evil," their hive mind confessed, "just extremely stressed." The human solution to most galactic issues seemed to involve naps, snacks, or what they called group therapy. Strangely, it worked. Better, in fact, than any prior regime. They drafted the Galactic Chill Zone Accord, mandating universal vacation time and enshrining the right to Netflix and actually chill. Species found overworking themselves were immediately visited by the Department of Taking It Easy. The Zellian High Council was restructured into what humans termed the Cosmic Coffee Club, where major decisions were made over pastries and caffeine. "You know what your civilization's real problem is?" a human asked a group of perplexed counselors. "Too much crystal, not enough flow. You've got to ride the gravitational vibes, my friends." Perhaps the most unexpected development was the birth of the Interspecies Relaxation Coalition. Young Zeons, formerly fearsome void crawlers, and dozens of others joined humanity in their quest for optimal work-life balance. Galactic productivity skyrocketed, ironically, once everyone learned when to pause. As Zyth watched a human teaching young Zeons how to make s'mores using plasma reactors, he realized maybe waking the humans hadn't been a disaster. Maybe, just maybe, it was like hitting the universal reset button. Chaotic, certainly, but refreshingly so. "Chief Officer," a human called to him, "we're kicking off the first annual Galactic Game Night. Want to join? We're playing Monopoly, Universal Edition. We modified it to include actual solar systems." Zyth's crystalline structure shimmered with what might have been surrender, or maybe delight. It was hard to tell these days. "Why not?" he replied. "It's not like the universe could get any stranger." The human grinned. Oh, just wait until we introduce you to karaoke. 6 months after the Great Awakening, or as the humans insisted on calling it, the universal snooze button incident, the galaxy had transformed into something no archive could have predicted. Eventually, even the Zellian records stopped trying to keep up. Instead of taking over, humans suggested starting a blog. It was deemed more in line with their personal brand. The blending of civilizations led to some truly unforgettable developments. The once dreaded void crawlers, feared throughout the cosmos, had now become unexpectedly popular meditation coaches. Their innate ability to stir deep existential unease apparently made them ideal for guiding others toward inner calm. A new saying emerged: nothing makes you appreciate life quite like a being from the void asking about your 5-year plan. Meanwhile, the Zon discovered that their crystal-like anatomy made them perfect for what humans referred to as mood lighting. Before long, young Zon were opening stylish cosmic lounges, their natural glow setting the perfect ambiance. The hottest destination, Crystal Vibes, had a waitlist stretching 3 centuries. But not everything went smoothly. The first attempt at the Intergalactic Olympics had to be delayed when it became clear the high jump was unfair to species that could bend gravity. Swimming competitions were canceled entirely after humans introduced the idea of pool noodles, which aquatic civilizations took literally, causing widespread confusion. The education system was completely restructured. History classes became especially fascinating. Today's topic: why did humans pretend to sleep for so long? Answer: not because they were tired, but because they were tired of us. Fair enough. The Galactic Senate underwent a rebrand as the Town Hall Hangout, now featuring beanbags and limitless snacks. The only rule? No political debates without pizza. Somehow, this led to more effective lawmaking than ever before. Even the fearsome Zellian military adapted, albeit awkwardly. Their intimidating warships were revamped to include coffee bars and yoga spaces. Images of crystalline admirals struggling through downward-facing dog became viral memes across 17 dimensions. Cultural exchange programs brought even more surprises. Humans introduced the concept of casual dress to species that had never worn clothes, sparking a galaxy-wide argument about whether nudity was more casual than wearing clothes. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Every day would be Hat Day, since everyone could agree hats were funny. The universal translation matrix had to be completely re-engineered to handle human expressions. The idiom, "it's raining cats and dogs," caused panic on 3 planets before it was clarified. The void crawlers did attempt to make it literal, just out of curiosity. But food might have been humanity's most successful contribution. Their obsession with blending flavors from multiple worlds led to culinary breakthroughs previously thought impossible. The quantum quesadilla became a galactic favorite. The void crawler vindaloo, an acquired taste that no one actually wanted to acquire. Zyth, now leading the Department of Galactic Excitement, renamed by the humans, of course, spent most of his time mediating odd disputes. No, you can't actually steal someone's nose. The floor is not really lava. Yes, humans do need 8 hours of sleep. No, your face is not a valid diplomatic response. Usually. And yet, amidst all the confusion, or perhaps because of it, the galaxy thrived. Species weren't just coexisting, they were genuinely enjoying each other's presence. Somehow, humanity's peculiar brand of controlled chaos had created a more peaceful universe than centuries of planning ever had. As one human philosopher put it, sometimes you need to wake the universe up to help it dream better. No one entirely understood what that meant, but it sounded deep enough to print on t-shirts. So they did. 1 year after the Great Awakening, the Galactic Alliance gathered for their annual summit. The conference room, now filled with reclining chairs and never-ending snack buffets, a non-negotiable human stipulation, buzzed with conversation and crystalline laughter. High Commander Sistos stood at the podium, their shimmering form radiating amusement. For millennia, we upheld a rule we didn't even understand. Don't wake the humans. Turns out, they weren't asleep. They were just taking a break from babysitting the galaxy. The human leader, still wearing their iconic bathrobe, now standard diplomatic attire in 3 sectors, lifted their coffee mug in salute. In our defense, they said, you were mostly doing okay, except for that little void crawler incident. We apologized for that, mumbled the void crawler diplomat, adjusting their newly adopted comfort scarf. But then something unusual happened. Zyth noticed the humans yawning. Not just one or two, all of them. He approached the human leader, who blinked slowly. "You all right?" he asked. "Oh yeah," they replied, suppressing another yawn. "It's just, you know how after a really long nap, you're awake for a while, and then you get tired again?" The room fell silent. Every crystalline being buzzed with realization and mild horror. "You don't mean," Ambassador Crystal began. "Yup," the human leader stretched with a satisfied sigh. "We think it's about time for another nap. You've got things under control now, mostly. But you can't just go back to sleep." The High Commander stammered, pulsing with anxiety. "Watch us," the human leader grinned. "Don't worry. We left actual instructions this time, not just that prank about not waking us up." They glanced around with a cheeky sparkle in their eye. "Though, maybe we'll keep that one too, for old time's sake." And so, in the universe's greatest twist of fate, the galaxy prepared once more for human hibernation. This time, willingly. It would become known as the Great Universal Snooze. Part 2. As Zyth observed the humans getting cozy for their cosmic slumber, he couldn't help but laugh. The universe's most sacred rule was about to be relevant all over again, but for completely different reasons. At least, he mused, his glowing form flickering with humor. They taught us how to make coffee before vanishing again. In the end, the galaxy's deepest truth turned out to be its simplest. Sometimes, all anyone needs is a really good nap.